everyone, I'm Joss, and today I thought I would do my first ever tag for this channel. It's the day and night tag, which I believe was created by the Readigans, and I will post a link to her channel down below. And I realized that by internet standards this is a very, very old tag, and I'm sorry, but I wanted to do it, I wanted to try to do it, and it's my very first tag, like I said, so this is still sort of a new thing for me. So anyway, let's get started. The first question is, do you read more in the morning or at night? And let me tell you something about myself. I am not a morning person at all. I can barely remember my own name most mornings, so asking me to read something in the morning and then be able to remember what I read later in the day is just, it's not going to happen. So that is my roundabout way of saying that I do more of my reading at night. I enjoy it more when I read at night, and I think I tend to remember what I read more when I do it at night. The next question is, are there any books that change the way you thought about things? Absolutely. There are a lot of books out there that have changed the way I thought about things, and I really like it. I really like reading, going into a book and not expecting my worldview to change and then be completely blown away. And so there's a lot of examples that I could use as something that changed the way I thought about things. But the one that first came to mind when I read this question was The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I read this book in high school, and I usually credit the book with awakening the feminist in me. So it got me interested in all feminism in general and various feminist issues, and it got me to fall in love with Margaret Atwood. The next question is YA or not? Definitely YA. I do read non-fiction books that were written for adult audiences, but the majority of the YA I read is, or rather the majority of the fiction that I read is for YA. Wow, I'm having trouble talking today. Anyway, next question is, are there characters that you honestly believe are real? Absolutely. I assume we're talking about fictitious characters rather than characters from nonfiction or historical figures that appear in historical fiction. But anyway, I think that there are definitely characters that are real in fiction, and mostly I'm pretty sure that there are a bunch of writers out there that base their fictitious characters on real people, or fictitious characters that are composites of several different real people. But besides that, if I'm reading a book or reading a work of fiction and I'm able to connect with a character on some level, I think that in a way and on some level makes them real, not in like a hey, they're standing right in front of me and I'm having a conversation with them type level, but if I'm having an emotional connection with a fictitious character, I think that in some sense makes them real. I hope that makes sense to you. The next question is, nobody touches my books or I don't mind loaning my books out. Now, most of the people in my life don't like the same kind of books I do and don't ask to borrow them, but I don't know if I would feel comfortable loaning my books out to people even if they did ask. And there's two reasons for that mostly. My mom once sold some of my books without my permission, and while she did give me the money that she made from selling my books, I still haven't quite forgiven her for taking my books and selling them. And also, while I was in college and away from home, living in the dorms, my sister, on a number of occasions, went into my room and borrowed some of my books. And when I say borrowed, I mean, she went into my room, she took whatever book she wanted, and then forgot to give them back. So, and in many cases, I didn't even realize they were gone until I was specifically looking for the book. And I would go into her room and find them in her room, and in not the same condition that I last saw them in at all. And I haven't forgiven her for that either, really. So basically, my mom and my sister are horrible people, and they're responsible for the fact that I'm very protective of my books. So I'm not sure that I would ever feel comfortable loaning out my books, but if I do eventually loan out my books, it would be under very specific rules and circumstances, and only with people that I really trust to obey my rules. The next question is, do you ever smell your books? I smell my books all the time. I especially love the smell of new books, although old books can smell wonderful as well. The next question is, not everyone loves books. Is this a positive or a negative? Now, I'm sure you've heard the saying that not everyone's a reader, or everyone can be a reader, they just haven't found the right book. And I think you could also make an argument for how the educational system, at least here in the States, has failed people in terms of reading and literacy. And I think those can be true, at least for some people in some circumstances. But yeah, I think that there are people who are not going to like reading no matter what you do. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think what's important is the ability to think critically about whatever media you're consuming, whether that be a book or a movie or a television show. And so I think that, even if you're not a reader, if you're able to see what's going on at that whatever, it's fine. Anyway, the next question is, I keep my books in the best condition or maybe not. Which are you? I don't have enough bookshelf space for all of my books. My bookshelf is overflowing. So I have some books piled up on the floor. I actually have some books piled up on the floor by my feet. So, and because I have books piled up on the floor, sometimes they get damaged. Sometimes, sometimes things happen. But I do the best that I can with what I have, or keep them in the best condition under the circumstances. The next question is, gosh, I have too many books. True or false? There's no such thing as too many books. No such thing. There is, however, such a thing as not enough space to hold your books, or not enough time to read all the books you want to read. The next question is, have you ever spilled or stained your books with something, and if so, how? I assume if we're talking intentionally staining your books, I would like to introduce you to my copy of Wreck This Journal by Carrie Smith. Specifically, and I should have found this page before I started recording. Specifically, that's all I have to say. Unintentionally, I've occasionally spilled liquids, whatever I was drinking while I was reading in my book, but those were accidental. The next question is, toned or untoned while reading? In other words, do you read while you work out? I do not read while I work out. When I do work out, I prefer to either listen to music or listen to nothing at all. So that is my day or night tag, and if you haven't done this video yet and you've been meaning to, I tag you, and feel free to link it up as a video response or tell me about it in the comments, whatever. So I think that's it. And I'm Joss Harden, so good night, goodbye, good morning, yeah, bye.